What they're doing in Texas is something that it needs to be applied not just on border issues, but on all overreaching mandates of the federal government.
Will Congress finally be able to fix that border crisis? What's happening? What is going to happen between the federal government and the state? Especially like we're looking at the state of Texas now just standing its ground. Governor Greg Abbott, along with Texas DPS and others, are saying, hey, no way. We now got 25 other governors that are backing Governor Abbott. And they are saying, you know what? Every state's a border state, and we're not putting up with the Biden open border policy anymore. And why? Because we get it as Americans. We're not idiots. We see what is happening at our border and in our communities and in our schools. And what about Alejandro Mayorkas? I may have some really good news for you today on this podcast. So I have Andy Biggs, Congressman Andy Biggs, on the show with us today. He is going to tell you all about what is happening behind the scenes on Capitol Hill and in Congress. You are going to get exclusive access to what is going on, not just with the Democrats, but with the Republicans and what they plan on doing to secure our border. And if they are not, folks, vote them out. Vote them out. But before we get to Congressman Biggs, I want to tell you a little bit about My Pillow. Why? Because it's sponsors like My Pillow that make the Sarah Carter Show possible. And Mike Lindell right now has a huge, enormous blowout sale. Right now, you can get My Pillow's best prices ever and free shipping on your entire order. Your savings include 50% off My Pillow 2.0, 50% off brand new flannel sheets. They just arrived and they will not last long. Visit mypillow.com/Carter, CARTER, and enter code Carter at checkout for free shipping and a huge discount on Giza Dream bed sheets. Listen to this, for as low as $29.98. You can't beat that. Go to mypillow.com/Carter, code Carter. That's CARTER, mypillow.com/Carter, code Carter, or call 1-800-685-7221. Again, so happy to have you on, Congressman Andy Biggs. It's great to have you back on the show, especially at such an important time where I think all the focus is on the border. The focus is on what our lawmakers are doing and failing to do. And so I want to just take a moment, though, to kind of segue, because before we come on, you and I have a great laugh. We do. We just, there's no stopping us. And if I don't get this off out of my system, I won't be able to move on to all these important issues like the border and what is happening up on Capitol Hill with all of these bills. So we were talking about how cities are falling apart. I just got a call from a source in Oakland who is devastated by what is happening in his own city. He's watching it crumble. His name's Greg McConnell. He's watching it crumble before his very eyes. Denny's has now moved out of Oakland. Poverty-stricken neighborhoods are becoming depleted of resources. So families really have no place to go. And you have these district attorneys kind of running the operations over there. And you just told me a really interesting story about Tucson, and you were just on a radio show about that and about the neighborhood you grew up in. Talk a little bit about that.
It's a straight up middle-class neighborhood, still remains a middle-class neighborhood. But the Walgreens that was just around, not too far from our house, is apparently being shut down because of crime. And it isn't the first one. They're closing Walgreens down all over Tucson in a certain area because of the high crime, I guess. And so the story, while I was waiting to do my hit, I was listening to the previous story, and they're talking about the crime that is just exacerbated, just blown up, right? I mean, and so I look at it and I say, this is, everybody's getting touched by this, by the crime and the, what I would say is kind of an anarchical type of situation, because you've got DAs who are not prosecuting. You've got, I was talking yesterday, just you'll get a kick out of this one. I was talking just yesterday to a CEO of a small company that owns some gas, some convenience stores, gas stations, and the little you go in and buy the hot dog and the Twinkies and all that stuff. And he said that in some cities, they've told him that they will be fined if they call for a crime that is less than $2,500 in theft. And he was showing me videos from several of their stores where it's just chaos. These people come in, they're ripping off stuff, they're beating up the employees, and he says, I realize this is a local issue, but I just wanted you to see this. And he said, we have no choice, but we're going to have to shut down these stores because our employees are at risk, the property's at risk, and we can't get the police to come because they don't have enough personnel to come because there's so much of this out there. And what a crying shame that America is now not safe for its citizens. It doesn't matter whether you live in a poverty type neighborhood, lower income type neighborhood, or a higher income neighborhood. Everybody is facing this lawlessness.
And it's so weird. It's like these prosecutors are almost becoming the defense attorneys of the criminals and prosecuting like us citizens who are just trying to live a normal life, work for a living, pay for our goods and our services. And instead, it's the criminals that are being let off. And these are, for the most part, funded by left-wing radicals and other groups like George Soros. And nobody's going to come after me now because the truth is it's out there. Even the Los Angeles Times did a big piece on Soros-funded DAs across America.
Yeah, and I remember when that first happened. That first happened what 6-8 years ago? Probably 8 years ago now, where Soros tried to take over 10 district attorney's offices around the country. And he managed to take over 9 of them. The only one he didn't was, oddly enough, Maricopa County, Arizona. And so that was the only one where we actually defeated the Soros candidate. So he's going on those, a lot of times he's funding these, what we call down ballot races. So he knows that if you can control the county attorneys, you can control basically the whole community because they're the ones that make the policy on who they're going to prosecute and not, and the types of sentencing that they want. And so when you don't put anybody away into jail and you give these cashless bail where people can get arrested for an assault and then the next day go out and do it again. That New York police officer, they arrested 4 or 5 of them, and they really turned around and released them after that brutal attack on that police officer.
I think that was absolutely stunning. We were all watching it. It's all over social media. It's all over the news. We see these illegal aliens just beating the daylights out of these 2 NYPD officers who, I can tell you, I'm in New York City all the time. I am so grateful every time I see an NYPD officer and I see them on the beat, and I'm thinking, these poor guys and gals, they are literally up against not only these criminals on the streets, but their own political establishment. They're coming after them too. I don't even think they know which way to turn. And then we see, the cops getting beat up. How is that possible, Congressman? How is it possible that if you and I, just for some random weird reason, decided to beat up 2 officers in the middle of the street in New York City, do you think we would be released on bail or no bail or just,
Nope.
we would be in jail, wouldn't we? How did this happen?
You and I would be in jail. It's this disparate treatment. I'm going to blame it on things.
Is it because of the money? Is it the money? Is it because we would have funds or a house or?
I'm going to blame it on critical race theory and these strange philosophies that have come in that say it's like George Orwell in 1980. In Animal Farm, when he was writing Animal Farm, he talks about the government and he alludes to it as the farm, right? And he says every pig was equal except for some were more equal than others. And that's really kind of what's happened here is we've said, okay, if you are a violent criminal, we're going to say you're more equal than somebody else. Now, we're going to take into everything, your personal characteristics, your belief, your political ideology. All those come into play now. Instead of just saying, hey, you broke the law, we're going to charge you with a crime, and you get to defend yourself. You're going to have all the rights that everybody else is going to get, but you're going to have to pay the consequences for your action. I mean, that's
they should have been kept in jail.
Yeah.
They should have been prosecuted, and then they should have been deported immediately out of our country with anybody that came with them. When you fail to uphold the standards of our nation, when you come into this country and you are asking for us to help you and you are taking from our citizens, then you have to follow the rules just like everybody else, or you're out of here.
Yeah. Think about that. So that is so important because like the Mayorkas impeachment thing. So a lot of people say, hey, you're focusing on the front end. Maybe you should look at the back end. And they're right to a certain extent. Think about this. Multiple times, Alejandro Mayorkas has said, if being illegally in the country alone is not sufficient for an immigration action, which would be take them to court and remove them, right? And even people who have got an immigration judge to make an order, they've had due process, and the judge has said, you don't have a valid claim, you are here in this country illegally, you need to be removed, or they fail to show up. He has said, oh, that's not enough. That's not enough. And so that kind of lawlessness with regard to people who are in the country illegally, whose first act coming into the country was to enter illegally and basically say, well, that's no big deal. It tells you that the head of the Department of Homeland Security says, you know what, we're not gonna enforce the law. And when they have a court order against them, ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, we're not going to authorize you to go out and find these people and remove them. We're going to tell you, don't do that because that's not our policy, because we don't think that's humane. And I'm like, well, you can't have really humanity because there's so many people in the world. Let's have humanity. You know how you have humanity? You have the rule of law, and that protects and preserves freedom and keeps the weak person from getting downtrodden by the big bully, and then allows everybody to have more equal opportunity and equal rights. That's what the rule of law does.
It does. It protects everyone. It helps avoid chaos, which is what we're seeing all across our nation with the insanity of this wide open border policy that is totally owned and established and has been fully operational under the Biden, Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, border czar policy. I think they own this. This is theirs. I want to give it to them. And now I want to just take it away from them. It makes me sick because we know what is happening here. We see the direction our nation's taking. And I'm going to ask you right now, I'm kind of like in a state of shock over Mitch McConnell again. I mean, he always leaves me feeling this way in total.
Just a minute, Sarah. Don't.
You do it. You do Mitch McConnell so well. He just peeked up out of his shell. No, I'm just joking. And he's going to tell you something. But what is up with the border bill? This is just, it's not even a border bill. It's a Ukraine funding bill that Mitch McConnell and, Langford, and they want to pass this bill that is like a complete lie. I mean, we don't even need it. So why even bother? We just need to follow the law. But they don't want to do that.
Yeah, Sarah, you nailed it on the head. So first of all, let's leave the crazy thing alone where they're essentially legitimizing 150,000 people a month, 1.8 million people a year to come in. And the word, because I met with some senators last night, and they were telling me about the briefing that they had, and the first 4,000 every day. And I know that the authors of the bill are saying, well, we don't anticipate that. Look, you're getting 10,000 a day now. So why wouldn't you think you're going to stop it when you say the first 4,000 are going to get asylum? They're going to get guaranteed asylum. And so do you think that that's going to be a pull factor or a deterrent? I don't know. Our take is on. Anyway, the point is, it's going to be a pull factor. So this is absolutely nuts. And the other point you made, which is so right on, is you don't even need that bill. What you need is, what I want to do is to defund certain segments of the federal government until there is enforcement along the border. That's the check that the founders gave us. It's the checkbook. It's the only thing I can think of that's going to incentivize these guys to actually enforce the law. Joe Biden saying, "Oh, hey, I need more authorities." What? Wait a second. None of those statutes were repealed. Everybody from Clinton to Bush to, Obama, Trump, they all used the same statutes, and they all were trying to do something. They all at least wanted some form of border security. This is the first administration that does not want it, and they're pleased as punch with the proposal.
Oh, absolutely. Also, just this week, 155 House Democrats voted against deporting immigrants who commit Social Security fraud. This is, again, so mind-blowing. I mean, these are absolute criminals stealing our Social Security. And I've been hearing about this forever.
It's inexplicable. It is illogical. It is, it's immoral, frankly. I mean, so what can you say? I've given up. I used to say unbelievable, but that doesn't work anymore. It's like in Princess Bride. I don't think that word means what you think it means. Nothing is unbelievable anymore to these people. When I hear it and I see it, it's like, oh yeah, I think we should have anticipated that kind of logic because it's crazy. And that's where we're facing right now.
Another crazy thing. I know I've got only a few minutes left with you, and every time I just want to give you all these questions. I just love talking to you. But how close is the House right now to impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas? And are we close, or is it never going to happen?
I think it's going to happen next week. So I think they're going to schedule whatever their floor time is that they have to go through the process. But I actually have talked to some of the people that have been skeptical. I filed my first impeachment resolution, I think, in August of 2021. So I've been advocating for a long time because I've watched this. This is by design. And even some of the people that have been less persuadable, they are now pretty much, I think, persuadable. They've told me, I've been told this week that some of the people are going to vote for impeachment.
So you think it'll happen?
I do think it'll happen.
Great. Okay, next. That's huge. That's huge. And I'm going to follow up with you on that because I also believe it will happen, but I was not certain. I mean, I'm just being hopeful right now with the state of Texas taking the lead on putting up those barriers. And I was just in Eagle Pass at Shelby Park, and they're putting up more concertina wire, at least our National Guard is. Do you think the cartels are shifting their focus now to Arizona, California? And how are you going to handle that in your home state?
Well, so our governor won't do anything, right? So if you want to know why they're shifting because it's going to be harder in Texas. I think you're going to see, they will keep pushing into Texas wherever there's breaks, right, of the locals, and the CBP can't monitor all that mileage either. So they'll keep pushing into where there's holes. But in Arizona, they're coming to Arizona. We've already seen it. I mean, I don't know if I was down in Lukeville right before Christmas. That's amazing. Have you ever been down to the TO reservation, Tohono O'odham reservation?
Yes, I have. And it's almost, you can't manage it there. Can't manage it.
And you can't get National Guard on it because it's got 62 linear miles and it's a reservation, so National Guard can't go on it. But one of my sources I was talking to, so there's a place, you got Banbury Wash, which has a bridge, a little bridge over it, which is, poorly designed because whenever it rains and the flash flood comes, it actually literally washes over the bridge that you need to go over the water. Anyway, then you go on down and you've got this, what we call San Miguel Gate. And at San Miguel Gate, which is in the middle of nowhere, 2 nights last week, Thursday and Friday night. So Thursday night, you had a group of 700 illegal aliens arrived there together. The next night, 800. And this is, if you know where this is, it is truly in the middle of nowhere. I think the closest place on the Mexican side, the closest village, city, small town is Caborca, and that's probably 40, 45 miles south. And what the cartels are doing, I didn't talk to those people because I wasn't there last weekend, but I've talked to people there when I've been there before. They'll meet the coyotes in Caborca. They'll take a bus on up, or a van, or some car, and they'll go as far as the road goes, and then they will let them off and say, they'll point to the mountain on our side of the border, and they'll say, just keep walking to the mountain, and you're going to come to some barbed wire fence. Go over, sit down, and just wait, because sooner or later, you're going to have the CBP guys come. And I've been there when I've been waiting for an hour or two with a group who had been there for 4 hours, and there's no agents. And why are there no agents? Because they're all having to process and transport. And so when you get all the agents focused on that one area, you have probably 100 miles there completely unpatrolled.
But their job has been completely diminished. Border Patrol no longer is looking for the terrorists. Not really. I mean, they're literally doing all the logistical work to bring people into the country. And right. We're paying for it. We're paying for it. Our tax dollars to fly them around, to move them here, to move them there, to put them on aircraft, to take care of their medical, to put their unaccompanied minors in facilities. It's absolutely crazy. I guess my last question before I have to let you go, and then I'll let you close it out, Congressman, because you have your own podcast, and I know you can do this. You can tell us what we need to do, but is Texas setting kind of a standard right now of how other states need to operate when it comes to the border if they have a governor that is so willing? I mean, right now Arizona doesn't, but is this a way of looking forward of how to handle things, taking more control, the state saying to the federal government, hey, stay out of our business right now because we got to protect our residents, our constituents who put us in office?
Yeah, I think so. I really applaud Governor Abbott. And you got New Mexico, Arizona, and California, the other three border states on the southwestern border. They have Democrat governors who are doing nothing to do at all. But I would just say, I'm convinced Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution allows the state to declare the invasion. Otherwise, it seems to me Article 4, Section 4 would be moot. And then certainly Article 1, Section 10 also, I think more specifically, perhaps even gives the states the ability to declare an invasion. And once that's the case, they can repel that invasion to protect their people. And so I'm curious to see what happens as this thing works its way up through the courts. But what they're doing in Texas is something that it needs to be applied not just on border issues, but on all overreaching mandates of the federal government. We are so upside down. Everybody comes to the federal government, even for state issues, when clearly most of those issues belong in the states, but the federal government and my colleagues, they actually believe if you pass a bill, you've really done something. I believe in the opposite. I think sometimes you have to stop a bill, stop some of this bad stuff. We have to reinvert the separation of powers, both horizontally and vertically. And when I say that, I mean the states need to be able to be strong. That's why I'm so supportive of what Abbott's doing. And I can tell you, I talked to Brandon, Brandon Judd. I talked to him yesterday. They get it, man. They're like, the agents, we want to enforce the border. We support what Texas is doing. We want to make sure that, because that's the job that they want to do. They want to enforce the border because that's what they were hired to do. They weren't hired to transport and process and watch the Secretary of Homeland Security and the president and the top level management basically keep a closed mouth about the what's happening on the border. So good on us, Governor Abbott. I'm all in on him. So be sure to watch me on What's the Biggs Idea podcast, where I interview Brandon Judd. I think you'd like that.
Oh, I'm going to watch it. And you keep your eyes on the Sarah Carter Show. But I hope you invite me soon on your podcast. I love being on it. I think you have a great podcast, Congressman, and I'm going to let you run so you can take care of voting for bills and fighting Mitch McConnell somehow. somehow on Capitol Hill, you're doing that. You're doing the tough job for all of us. Thank you so much for fighting for everyone and for doing the right thing. Thank you so much, Congressman Biggs. You know, you're always welcome on the Sarah Carter Show. And thank you so much for fighting the fight for us on Capitol Hill. Please make sure you are subscribed to the Sarah Carter Show on your favorite podcast app. It helps us keep the show free and really gives us a boost in our algorithms and makes all the difference in the world. If you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, give us a like, a review, and a follow as well. Thank you so much for being a part of my show. You know how much I love y'all, and I'll see you real soon. Follow me on Truth at Sarah Carter Official, on X at Sarah Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterGC. God bless you. God bless our members of Congress who are fighting the fight for us on Capitol Hill. God bless our nation, and God bless the great state of Texas and Arizona.